Cedar is used locally for healing. And this is a cedar feather that was carved that I bought from a street seller many, many years ago. So I brought that. And there's lots of Kleenex here in case anyone needs it. So feel free to help yourself. There's some on the table here, some there, and there's another box somewhere else. Okay, so sorry about all that. So we met in Ottawa during this consultation around a monument that's going to be built in Ottawa in honor of, you know, all LGBTQ2S plus people, not just the people who were affected by what's called the purge. And I was so glad to meet you because Ma-Nee published this book, A Two-Spirit Journey, the Autobiography of a Lesbian Ojibwa-Cree Elder. And for my project, which is the Archives of Lesbian Oral Testimony, we produced a podcast, and there's these little cards here about the podcast, and they're at that table there. Feel free to take one. And there's also a pamphlet about the archives. And she was the first person we interviewed for our podcast. And even though what we focus on is the oral, and we archive oral stuff, we felt that her story written was so important, and it was a good place to start, right? It was with her story. So when I finally got to meet her, I was very excited, and so I said, when are you coming to Vancouver? So here she is. And yes. And I should also mention the reason who brought her here is a woman named Anne Riley, and there is an exhibit of Ma-Nee's artwork at ArtSpeak on Carroll? On Carroll. Yeah, on Carroll Street. And it's, yeah, 233 Carroll, yeah, in ArtSpeak. And it's your work, and there's several other artists as well?
Yeah.
Christos? Yeah. So.
And,
Ayanna Miracle, yeah, who I worked with in Montreal many years ago and who's no longer in this world. So, yeah, so super exciting to have you here, and thank you, and welcome. So, I wanted to start by asking you. So I've passed around, because we don't have PowerPoint, I passed around a map I printed out of the area. So Ma-Nee was, yeah, there it is there. So Ma-Nee was, one map is just from Google Map, and then the second map is a really cool website called nativelands.ca, and which tells you whose land you're on. So the more colorful map is from there, and then the last piece of paper is a photo of Ma-Nee from the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women Inquiry, their closing ceremonies. So we'll talk a little bit about your participation in those hearings as well. So you were born, your mother was 42, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
More, maybe older.
Yeah.
I just took the number.
Yeah, okay. So your mom was a bit older, and she was in a TB hospital at the time you were born. And you were.
It wasn't TB.
Oh, it wasn't TB. Okay.
It was just a hospital.
Sanitary. Okay. And then you were adopted out, and your kokum, your grandmother, who at the time was blind, found you, right, when you were 2, and she brought you back to her community.
Yeah. She heard I was born, that her youngest daughter had a baby girl, and she spent those 2 years looking for me.
Yeah. So she was looking the whole 2 years.
Yeah, because they were just about to adopt me when she found me, and so they unadopt me and felt sorry for my grandmother and let her have me.
Yeah. And so she took you home, and I asked you this before, the name of your, not Auden, but the community, and I've forgotten already. It's
Ombabaka.
Ombabaka. So that's the part, that's what's marked on the map there is Ombabaka. So I wanted to ask you about the land there. Could you, because that was, because you grew up on the land and that's so important to you and who you are. And I wondered, here we are in British Columbia, could you describe for us, could you paint a picture for us of the land there?
Well, it's got railway tracks. That was the only way to travel to different places, is by railway canoes on the river. And Then they made a road from Beardmore area, which was Trans-Canada Highway 11. And from there they made a road to Auden, because there was a Abitibi company came and ripped the trees out of there and cut up the trees and everything. And my grandmother said, they don't have any humans to pick on, so now they're picking on the bush. That's what she said.
Yeah.
That was her first saying things. I didn't write that in a book because at that time I didn't think it was that important. But I remember her saying that for the first time when she said, "This is they're coming here to pick on the bush. They're taking the bush away from us." So, and which was true. They cut down all the trees and everything, and they took all the trees away. And I was part of. My dad got hired to be part of that group. That's how he made a little bit of money to feed us. So we watched, we did lots of things, like they had lots of big lumber on the lake, and my dad was walking around. So I went with him when he went to work, when I was little. And then he went on the, he was walking around on the lake, walking around on the wood, and
Right.
Pushing the other logs away, and I'm coming along pushing all the other logs away. But then they sent me off. They told him, she's not part of the job. But I was learning to do everything just like he was, so
Yeah.
that's what I remember. One of my stories that I remember about the bush, why it was there. And the place was called Umbabaka. That's our little space. And then the white community was the ones that work, had built homes. They had nice homes, real beautiful homes. And they lived on this side, which was called Auden. And that's where the CN station was. They built a nice big fancy CN station. And they built Hudson Bay store and all this other stuff. So we would, from Umbabaka village here to Auden, we would go shopping over there. But we never went to people's homes. We weren't allowed to go over there because we didn't know them people, so they didn't know us. But our community was here.
You tell stories in your book about creating these like little worlds, that you would sort of build these little worlds in the forest, in the bush.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that? When you were a child and your imaginary.
Well, I did it because I wanted to know where everything was in Umbabaka. I think I was teaching myself how this is where Umbabaka is and this is where Auden is. Because one of my grandmother's helpers took me to Auden. We walked around the road when they were building half of the building. They were building houses there for people to stay, the ones that were working for Abitibi company. And then when we come back, and then I would create my own little worlds, what I saw in that other community. And then I was trying to create little villages where this was and where that was and where the church was. What did that church mean to me? I got kicked out of there when I was 8 because I didn't answer proper questions.
What do you mean you didn't answer proper questions?
Well, there was a priest and he would ask, do you know where God comes from? And I said, I think it's in my book, but I said, oh, I see it way over there, but there was a sun coming up. A sunrise was coming up, and I thought, there it is. But that's what I said. That's God. And then I got thrown out because I didn't answer it right, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they asked my cousin also, who made you? And she said, my parents, or my mom and dad. So we both got kicked out. We didn't belong there. Catechism, whatever they call it. I think that's our
catechism. Yeah.
school, some kind of school. We were happy.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I ever had a rubber bus. It's a little bus they gave me as a gift before I got kicked out, so I took that rubber bus with me because I wanted to remember it. And a rubber bus is a bus full of, it looked like a school bus, but it was a school bus, but that was the first bus. And that felt so important. I thought there was real, this is, she said to me, this nun told me that this is what carries all the little kids that was taken away from their moms and dads. So I took it and I wanted to explore that, and I didn't know. And she said they lived somewhere out in Beardmore or maybe Geraldton or in Thunder Bay, she said, but I didn't know where Thunder Bay was. I mean, like Fort William or Port Arthur, she said. A way big city, she said. When she was explaining those things to me, I didn't know what city looked like.
Right.
I didn't know what that was. So I thought, okay, if I can rescue those, in my mind I thought I can start rescuing those kids if I could go find them in that rubber bus.
Oh, wow.
See, I was going to find those kids and bring them back home.
Yeah.
But I thought they were missing from my neighborhood, but I didn't know they weren't. They were just, it was just a story she was telling me.
Yeah.
There might have been another story when they take kids away and put them in school, but I didn't.
Well, maybe that's a good segue to talk about that. The story you tell about one day you were out in the bush and I can't remember who it was that came to pick up the kids and bring them to residential school. I don't know.
A train.
It was a train, but I can't remember. Like, it wasn't RCMP, was it?
No, it was a guy. My mother told us that it was a guy in a long trench coat and a hat like
A fedora?
you know, a fancy hat, but it doesn't look like a cowboy hat, but it's kind of like
Yeah, like the 1940s
yeah,
kind of.
detective hat
Detective hat, yeah.
or whatever. So that's how
Yeah.
my mother explained it. All those kids came and got your little brother and your sister, so I was the only one left.
Yeah.
But I happened to be in a trapping ground when they took the kids away. So when I come back, I told my dad, we're walking into the village, I said, it's so quiet in here, there's no kids playing. And then we see people looking in the window and then shutting the curtains when they saw us go by. I guess they were all angry and hurt. They lost all their kids. The only ones that was left is 3-year-olds, some 4-year-olds. They were too small to be in residential school. And that was in the 60s. And I thought that was an awful thing. When we went home, my real mother started crying. And then my stepdad grabbed her and they started crying together because my little brother was gone. I guess they adopted him, but I didn't know he was adopted until later. My mom went away for a few months, I think. She came back with a baby. So I thought it was her baby. And so I didn't know that wasn't my real brother. So then my sister, she was older than me, that was my dad's daughter. And I didn't know that was his daughter. I thought we're all together as a family. So then my sister was gone, so my brother was gone, and there was just me left. My mom didn't like it because I wasn't her favorite. My grandmother was my mom. She was my mom, my main mom. She was the one I call mom. My real mother, I called her Hannah because that was her name. And I never called her mom at all. And she didn't like me because I guess maybe because I didn't like her or she didn't like me. We didn't like each other. When we first met, we were introduced in the middle of the night sometimes when she got off the train. They woke me up and told me, we'd like you to meet this person. This person is your real mother. And of course I didn't believe that. I thought they were gone crazy. I thought my grandmother was my mother, so. And so My mom and I didn't have anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it was always a difficult relationship for you, but I just wanted to share with everybody, having read your book, like, you know, I've been studying and teaching Canadian history, you know, 30 years, and you realize when you read your story, it's literally a kidnapping. Like, it's, you know, there's the way it's described in history books where, you know, children were sent to residential school, and you just don't really, hearing the story from your perspective it, I think, really reveals so much more about the story.
It is, to me.
Yeah.
They just came and took the kids away without asking.
Yeah.
They just literally, like my mom said, the guy knocked on a door, there's two of them, and they had a big piece of paper like this, and they said, hey, we're going to take these two people, and that's it. Put your clothes on, and we're going to go. And then they did that, threw a piece of paper there.
Yeah.
Government, they said.
Yeah.
That's the word they use, government.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody's going to fight with government, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all bigger than us. That's what my mother said, I guess. My real mother said that to my dad. I hear them talking, and she was crying and screaming because her little son was gone and her daughter. And I was there. I couldn't make peace with that, with them. I was mad too because I didn't know why did they come and took him away. And the other kids, they weren't around there, and then the other parents started picking on me because there was about maybe four of us or five of us that weren't taken, that happened to be away when they came and took the kids. So there was 4 of us or 5 of us that was left as teenagers, or as, not teenagers, but as young people, and the ones that didn't get taken away. We were the ones that got punished by the people of the parents that lost their kids. They picked on us. I became the babysitter of all the drunks' babies. They became the drunks. Alcoholism moved in as fast as anything. I remember that. It took over the lives of Umbabaka. They drink. That's all they can do, I guess, to not to feel, I guess.
Yeah.
I know that now because I did that myself. I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm a sober alcoholic since 1975. So, and I've been off drugs since 1975. I don't do drugs, alcohol, or anything like that anymore. But well,
you, in your book, you explain, you know, how you started using, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're surrounded
by all
alcoholism, and you know, the parents are partying, like the adult is partying around you, and so you start slowly sneaking away. They don't know. Once they're really drunk, then you start sneaking away little bottles here and there.
I hid them.
Drinking,
I hid them in a bush.
Yeah.
And put them in different bottles.
Yeah.
Put all the empties back so they know they drank it all. But I hid them all when they're all passed out. I would do that.
So it affected you too, you know, being it's a very complicated environment that you're growing up in, because I think you might think, oh, you didn't get taken to residential school, that's really great, but the story that you tell is
some people would tell me that. Some people would say that to me, like some adults or say, well, you're lucky you didn't go to residential school. And I said, you know, you guys are lucky you didn't stay home, because what parents did, your parents did to me, and what other people did to you is probably just as bad as whatever you experience in the residential school, maybe worse.
Yeah. And I think that's a really hard thing. So many things you say, I thought those must be hard things to say.
Oh yeah, there is. It is, because, but then, you know, why I wrote the book is because I really didn't like my people not talking about what really happened in our homes, what really happened with in those days, like in the 60s, everybody want to color up the 60s. They want to make it sound like it was okay. I had an okay life, but it wasn't really. Why did you become an alcoholic if it was an okay life? Why do you become those people? Why do you choose something to take in your mouth or to sniff it to make yourself feel better because you're so much in pain? You only use that to make it go away. You think it's going to go away. So why would you do that? And if you didn't have a rough life, why would you do that anyways? And to me, that was the reason. I mean, I see people when they drink a normal way of drinking. They drink and they'll have 2, 3 beers, maybe 6 at the most, and that's the end for them on the weekend. So to me, that's not an alcoholic. But or even smoking up, they only do it sometimes just to get together with party. So then they leave it alone, right? And they still can go to work, some of them. But there are some hidden ones too. So in alcoholism, I know that a lot of people hide things.
You know, one of the things that really amazed me about your story is when you, I mean, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but well, I guess there was a couple things I wanted to pick up on about your recovery. You talked about your friend. Sorry, I've just lost my place. Is her name Jane? What was her name? Your friend who slapped you across the face.
Oh yeah,
is it
okay.
Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she confronted you because at this point you have 2 or 3 kids.
No, I only had 2. I've always had 2. Okay. But I got 3. I adopted some. They're just like my kids anyway.
Yeah. So you had your 2 kids, but you were really in heavy using at that time, and she confronted you. She lived with you, and she confronted you, and she slaps you across the face, and she says, "If you keep this up, you're going to lose your kids."
Yeah.
And it's at that point you admit to her, "I really want to quit, but I don't know how."
Yeah.
And this is the beginning of your
sobriety,
journey.
yeah.
And your sobriety. And so another story that you tell that kind of goes against the grain is that this team forms around you to help you, but another person who plays a really key role in your becoming sober is a social worker. Like, I think we're used to hearing stories about social workers causing harm. But
no,
here's the social worker who
yeah,
steps
she was
in.
a children's aid worker.
Yeah.
She took my kids away.
Yeah.
But the social worker that they assigned to me was, the children's aid took the kids away and they assigned this other worker, social worker, to work with me. And she's the one that helped me to get my kids back.
Yeah.
And then for me, I thought, well, I'll get them back. I can always go back drinking in 1 year later after I get the kids. So in my mind, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you're an addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a year later, it came, I really loved my sober life. I began to love my life as, oh, I don't have any more headaches. I can deal with this. The kids are easy to live with. And then when I started having other people's kids come and stay with me, I think I started to have compassion for other kids, and also just understanding myself that I was only missing something. I really wanted to do something.
Yeah.
But I was missing something and I didn't know how to be that person.
You were missing something in
my life,
your growth, like to become the person
how to be
you wanted
strong,
to be,
how to say no when, rather than saying, yeah, okay, I'll take it because I'm weak. But I became strong.
How did you?
Because my kids helped me to become strong.
Yeah.
That's how I see it, as my kids gave me the... I never want to lose them. I didn't have any more family left.
Yeah.
So I only had my 2 kids. And then I had another kid, and then I had another kid. You know, I started looking at other kids that weren't mine.
Yeah.
And when you reflect on your own little life, you know they need you, but you also need them.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that was one of the greatest gifts that I ever got in my sobriety.
Yeah.
To stay sober.
Yeah.
Rather than to go back when it was easy.
Yeah.
When I wanted to pull my hair when the kids weren't listening, you know, or when things weren't going right. Sometimes we were almost starving. My kids would say, "Mom, I'm hungry. When are we going to get food?" That's a struggle too we had when I was sober, because we were waiting for my job to come through, and we're waiting and waiting, and they were hungry and I was hungry, and I showed them how to eat one slice of bread to make it last longer. You know, but that's sober. That was sober, and that didn't really bother me as much as what other things bothered me.
What do you mean? Like, what other things bothered you?
Well, like the abuse and all that other stuff that happened.
Yeah.
Or just witnessing kids hanging themselves. I didn't do it on purpose. They didn't do it on purpose, so they say, you know. And you try to help them, you can't. When you see a kid hanging there, and the parents are right there, and they didn't do nothing about it, what do you do? You know. They're screaming and they're dying. I guess they found their son and they come and get me. Everybody always wanted to come and get me when something was going on. Yeah. And I'm standing there thinking, oh, why me? Why they come after me when something is going on? Maybe I was a stable one in that housing. I don't know. So. Well,
I want to say so many things, but you had in terms of your sobriety, you've had a huge impact on people. So you were asked to translate the sort of
my first big job, yeah.
Yeah, and so to translate it into Cree and
Ojibwa, yeah.
And then you decided, which I think is just so brilliant, to tape record. Because you were translating it in written, but you decided, well, I might as well tape record it, and then you sent your tapes all around.
Yeah.
And years later, you would meet people who would say, I listened to those tapes, I'm sober because of that. So
yeah, well, we got hired. There was a few of us got hired. And they started off with me because they knew that I needed help a lot more, and I needed to make money because I was trying to stay sober.
Yeah.
And so I got the job, and they're paying me $2 an hour, which was, to me that time, it was big. Maybe I was gypped, who knows. When I think about it, maybe I'll go back and think about in those days how much money, how many dollars it was that time, you know. Yeah. Hey, you guys owe me some money yet. Maybe I'll go back and tell them that.
Yeah.
No, but I went there. It was $2 an hour, and I wanted to feed my kids. I didn't want them to go hungry, and I didn't want to be hungry either because it was my first job. I didn't go on welfare. I didn't know you could go on welfare. I didn't know that. Yeah. They had that, and I didn't even know.
Right.
Nobody told me about it. Right. So I had to get a job. And when I got the job, when they asked me, well, Ma-Nee, what do you think we should do? This is the big book right here, they say. We need to translate this book to Anishinaabe to the language so other people can start sobering up. And I said, well, can you do that? And I said, yeah, I could do that. I said, so I started to look at the book, and then I started to write it, and I told them, hey, why don't we record it? I told them. Why don't you guys spend money and buy a recording machine and one for me? And then they hired some other person to come along to work with me, another person who speak really good language. So there was only two of us that spoke really good language. Mm. Our name was Margaret Fisher, and she's gone now, she died. So I said, okay. And we both did it, and she said it in her language too, and so we worked together. It was really a good job. We translated We did it it was much faster to do it in the cassette tapes than to do it when we're trying to write it.
Yeah.
But we did try to write it. And I think the writing got away from it because we didn't understand the English words, you know, for us.
Yeah.
It was harder for us to translate the words exactly in what it says to write it for us. So when we said it in the language, it was much easier. And then one day I got a visitor. I got hired in Smith Clinic. I got a job after, which is a big treatment center in Thunder Bay for alcoholism and drugs. So I got hired there and as a counselor, and I started off in detox. Then I moved up, and then I was good. And so I work with alcoholics, and some people didn't like me because, and they said that you talk too much in the language. We need to know what you're saying to the people, you know. So the other workers didn't like it when I was speaking my language to the people when I was explaining things.
Right. Wow.
So I had to talk English. And the nuns, they asked for that kind of thing. So I said, well, I'm sorry, I got to talk on my Anishinaabe one because I'm going to lose it if I don't.
Yeah.
So I just kept on, I didn't care. And then I got a visitor from out of town, way out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody a man, he said, I am looking for, that was me, I want to meet this person that talked in the tape. I want to thank her, and he's been sober almost a year, and he came to visit me just to say thank you for helping me sober up. And that's how it goes. Yeah. Thanking me. Yeah.
You must have been so proud.
Oh, I was very happy that they can sober up because of what I translated from the big book. Yeah.
So I told you before I wanted to read this story. So you recorded this, you know, all on tapes, and you were saying how easy that was. And so, but because I'm an oral historian, I really wanted to tell this story that we talked about on the way here that you write about in your book. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how many of you know the musician Jeremy Deutscher, who works with old, I think, wax cylinder recordings. He's from New Brunswick, and he's an opera singer, and he sings over them and with them. So a lot of people are using a lot of older recordings.
I know him.
Yeah, you do know, or you don't know?
I know him. I told him to do that job.
Really?
To go after. I told him to go after his music rather than working with the Rainbow Health in Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yes, he said, Ma-Nee, what do you think I should do? I don't really like this job. And I said to him, Jeremy, I said, you can sing, you can do something with your music.
Yeah.
Go after your music, heck with the Rainbow. They'll hire somebody else, I said.
Thank goodness,
Yeah. So
a lot of young Indigenous people are doing really amazing stuff with these old anthropological recordings.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a story about that. She says, I remember how adults listened closely to her, your kokum, your grandmother, and often laughed heartily when she told a tale. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, some white people came to interview my grandmother. Mm-hmm. I realized now that they wanted to record her stories, but at the time, I did not understand what they were doing. My kokum was supposed to answer their questions inside of a tent using an Anishinaabe interpreter. The white men had set up a battery outside the tent and connected it via wires running underneath the canvas to a machine with big wheels inside. Mm-hmm. I watched a man set it up and test the equipment by talking into the machine and then playing back his own voice. I understood they wanted to do the same thing with my grandmother's voice, but I feared they might capture her entirely and keep her inside the machine. Mm-hmm. So I waited outside the tent until I heard my grandmother say, "Yeah," which means yes, agreeing to talk. Then I played her voice. Then they played her voice back as a test. As soon as I heard that, I took the little hatchet I carried on my belt, chopped through the wires, and moved away quickly.
Yeah.
It took a while for the men to figure out why their machine had stopped working. They said they couldn't repair it there, so they just wrote down my grandmother's responses to their questions instead. Nobody knew who had cut the wires except for my grandmother, who guessed it was me.
Yeah.
She talked to me about it later and tried to reassure me that they would not have hurt her.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
You had
Well, I had visioned her that they were going to take her, like, you know, they were going to do something with her. And that's about the machines. It's about the same time when I took the radio apart because somebody said there was people dancing inside the music. I was telling, I don't know who I was telling. You.
You were telling me on the way here.
Yeah, I was telling you that I took the radio apart because I thought there was people dancing and I wanted to see them. So I took it all apart. There was no dancers. No music after that. And then I was told to fix it, so I repaired it back to what it was. Yeah, and after that I started repairing, later on then I started repairing radios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also talk in the book about how your grandmother called you, and I'll try and pronounce it here, Memoir. Two-spirit? Yeah.
Yeah. Memoir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Memoir.
And she told you this when you were really young.
I was 4.
You were 4 years
Yeah.
old. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Tell us that story for us.
Well, she told me that there's 2 spirits in my body, mind and soul, she said to me. That your people used to live with our people and they lived together in harmony. Like, they live together like not the way it is now, she said, when there's 2 people that are, 2 men live together and they love each other. They can't live like that no more, she said. They don't exist that way because people got changed. And I said, oh, and that was it. And then every year I would think about when she would always honor me as a 2-spirit person, reminding me who I am. But I didn't know what that meant, why it was like that. And then when I first met these 2 lesbians that were living together in my community, I didn't even know they were those people. They were the 2-spirit people. But, you know, the kids invited me, come and play with us. So I went to their house, and then I went inside, and we were all playing, and there was only 1 double bed on one side, and then there was 5 beds on the floor and on the floor. And I thought, oh, this is my bed, one kid said, come here. And then the other kid says, this is my bed, this is my bed. So there was 5 of us and there was me, 6. So and I said, whose bed is that? Oh, that's our mom's. You know, that's what they said. Yeah. And I thought, oh, okay, I didn't think of asking about that. So anyway, then I was sitting down by the doorway and I heard somebody coming, jing, 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 like that. And then they opened the door. This woman, Janjanani, comes in. Hi, she is saying to me, and I said, hi. Then behind her was another big step, and then another woman, bigger, and she seemed tougher. And I thought, oh my God. And then she said, who is this little girl? I guess she was saying that in the language, and I don't remember exactly, but then she put their stuff away, and then the door was open. I ran out the door because I didn't know who she was, because I was scared of her because she was really big and she had a big voice and she had a big skirt on, and you know, just those things. And I ran out and I told my grandmother about it. She just laughed and giggled. She said, she didn't say that those are Nijajijak. She didn't say it that way. She said, those are your people, she said. But I didn't know what people. When she said my people, I thought she meant the whole Umbabaka. Oh, okay, my neighbors, you know. Right. Put it away, and I thought, they're looking after the kids and they're raising kids. That's their kids. They got lots of kids. You should go play with them more often, she goes, you know. I thought, oh yeah, you know. I'm not going back to that, you know, I was scared of that because I was already scared of my own mother, so
Yeah.
anybody that was big and act tough always feared me.
Right.
So.
What do you think your grandmother saw when she looked at you at 4 years old?
Well, when she saw me, she probably thought I was the greatest gift she ever had because she treated me like a very special person.
Yeah.
She treated me with kindness and love and told me to respect people, never to fight back, turn the other cheek if somebody bugs you, you know, to be loving, to be kind.
Yeah.
Those are the things my grandmother taught me. And I always remember them.
I would like you to tell this story about the first time you acted as a midwife. And I want to tell this story because I think in many ways you've been a midwife to many people, not literally, but in their life, because you continued on working with addictions and working with youth for the rest of your life after this period we talked about. But much earlier than that,
Yeah.
you were...
Well, all the midwives was drunk in Umbabaka.
How old were you? You were
15 and a half.
15 and a
Somewhere
half.
around there.
Yeah.
I was almost 16. I wasn't married yet then. My marriage was arranged. I tried running away 2 times, but it didn't work. So I didn't even know how to run away. Never mind, I don't even know how to steal now. That's what I always say. I get caught too easy. Anyway, with my going back to that time, thinking about babies and this, all the midwives were drunk. Every one of them in Umbabaka was toasted drunk, so they weren't available for anybody to have a baby and to have babies be born that time. That was a big mistake for them. And especially when those old people get drunk. And so this lady comes and get me. She's an older woman. She says, my daughter's just going to have a baby. She's in labor pain. I need help, she said. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm not very good at it either. So she said, just come and help me, assist. You get me water, get me scissors, get me whatever I need, she said. And I said, okay. So I just need somebody to help me. So she was trying to prepare, and when the scissors was there, she told me to hand it to her when she needs it, when the baby's coming and all that stuff. And she tried to explain to me that there's going to be a baby coming out. The head's going to come out first, she said, and then she said there's a long string of something coming out. That's when I have to cut. You know, she was explaining to me what she's going to do, and I thought, oh, that sounds so gross. But anyway, so I thought, you know, this is my thinking when I'm that age. Thinking, oh my God, how can dare you ask me those things? So anyway, after being with her there, and then the woman started screaming. She started screaming her head off, ah! and then all of a sudden, boom! I hear this big thump, and there she was, the grandmother lying on the floor. The daughter's mom lying on the floor, passed out. She fainted, and the baby's just about coming, and I swear to God, or swears to something that I totally believe in, somebody came inside my body and just took over my body and maneuver my hands and maneuver my mind and just told me what to do. And the baby came out, but it's stuck, and the baby was stuck, and there was no head. It was the feet. It was a breech baby. And I thought, oh my God. And then so I stuck my hand in there, pushed the baby back, stuck my hand in there, and I could feel the baby's head or whatever it was. I could feel, and it was coming, and she was screaming, the woman screaming her head off. And I didn't know what to tell her, push, or I didn't know any of that then. So she was just pushing and screaming, and So then I felt, and then finally the baby came, the feet came, and I guided the feet coming in, and then the arms, I put the arms back like this, and they came, and then the baby's head came, but it was choking with that cord, was choking, and the baby was blue. It was really blue, and I thought, oh my God, I didn't know what color the babies are supposed to be, so I thought, okay, this baby's blue, so what am I going to do with it? So I picked it and looked at it and didn't know what to do, and she said, okay, she said, and then all of a sudden I grabbed the scissors, I cut that thing, and I tied it up and tied up the other one and put the other one there with the scissors so it doesn't move back.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's something like told me to do that. So anyway, I did that, and then I tied the other one, and I held the baby, and the baby wasn't breathing, doing anything, so I was shaking it, trying to do that, and then I thought, oh, people used to kiss people. They would put their mouth in the baby's mouth or somebody's mouth, and I remember seeing that when somebody was, ooh, and then they breathe. I thought, okay, I got to do that, so I was trying to do that with the little baby, and I turned it over, and I did this gently, come on, baby, and all of a sudden, wah, came alive. It was good. And I thought, oh, it's alive. And then it started to move its feet, and that was it. And then I got scared of it. I said, get it out of here. And I tried to and I told the lady, the mother, I said, here, this is your baby. Take it out. I said, there's something else coming out. I didn't know. There was another baby coming out, I told her. She thought it was another baby. And I thought it was another baby. Meanwhile, it was that.
Placenta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Said that was coming out. I thought, oh, that thing came out, and that was it. Bunch of blood, and got it over. And the lady wakes up. Oh, she wakes up. She goes, what's that? What happened? What happened? She was all crying, emotional, and really, she apologized to me, and so she said, so you're a midwife. Yeah. I thought first she did that on purpose, but she, you know, but she didn't. She said she really didn't. Yeah.
That's a lot more than you say in your book.
Yeah. Well, in my book I had to kind of shorten it.
I know, but you don't say it's a breech birth in your book, I don't think.
No, it wasn't. No.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a breech baby. And that baby is now almost 50 years old, or so over, no, it's over 50 years old. 55, I think.
So it's not until, you had 3 marriages. Your first one was at a very young age, right? There was Gus, and then Frank was the last one.
There wasn't 3 marriages.
Oh, they weren't.
It was 2.
2, and then
The first one
with Gus.
Yeah, and the second one, that's it.
Yeah, and then wasn't there Nate, who you moved to Winnipeg with? No?
That's the same one.
Oh, that's the same one, okay.
Yeah.
And then, so after all of this time, then you have your first relationship with another woman, with Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Does she pronounce it Leah or Lee?
Lee.
Lee. And you end up moving to Boston with her, and she...
Not with her, really. It wasn't like that exactly. It was more like... I went there because of medical for my eyes.
Right.
But we didn't talk about that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, having this relationship with Lee, your first?
Oh, my
after
first, after when I met her, I got to know her, and she promised she was going to help me. I told her that I was going to write a book, but she laughed. I laughed because I didn't know if I was really serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're asking before that?
Well, no, I mean,
What do you?
your grandmother tells you you're Two-Spirit when you're 4.
Yeah.
But it was a long road between there and then finally Having
meeting
your first relationship with a woman.
a first time with a woman. Oh yeah, like it was. I felt like that was the first time I ever came home.
Yeah, that you came home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about that? Like,
I don't know. Well, for becoming first time being a lesbian is like it's so beautiful, and it's so like it's not like being with somebody you really don't want to be with. I don't know. It's like heaven, I guess. I'm in a garden of heaven somewhere. I'm in my first time I experience in a relationship with somebody, and then first time having someone touch me as a human being, as a person, someone loving me for who I am and not expecting me to be, oh, you go get my water and you go do this and you go do that. Not somebody telling me what to do with my life. Just more like, what can I do for you, or what can we do, or what shall we do, you know? That's that kind. I don't know. I guess you know that kind of relationship, you know. I don't wanna.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody's heaven is a little different, though, I have to say.
Well, mine was truly in heaven.
Yeah.
I felt like I really, finally, I understood my grandmother, finally. Because my grandmother told me a long time ago, when you meet someone for the first time in your life, it's going to be like you're being in heaven, and you'll never, she just said you'll have the best experience of your lifetime.
Yeah.
That you never thought you would ever have. Nothing is painful, it's just all beautiful, and love and respect and all that stuff. She said it's really beautiful. You'll be happy when you grow old and you meet your first time you meet your lover. She told me that's what's going to happen to you, she told me. And that was the only time she ever mentioned it to me. And so when she told me that, that's what happened. For the first time in my life, when I met a woman.
Yeah.
And had a relationship with her. It was awesome. Went to heaven, came back, here I am.
And your second lover was a woman named Grace. And that was a really interesting relationship, because well, it was an interesting time in your life, because you had this 20-acre piece of land together that you built on together.
Yeah.
And you talk in your book about how you're able to return to some of the practices your kokum had taught you. So that must have been a really rich period for you.
It was. It still
very
is.
Healing.
It's very healing. We had a good relationship. We raised bunch of grandkids there, looked after all my grandkids. They kind of grew up in my home there. Well, maybe not all the time, but most of the time. They came to live with me, and I did the best I can to be a good grandmother. I wanted to be a good grandmother.
Yeah.
And I tried to be. Maybe I wasn't maybe I'm not the grandmother they expect me to be. I don't know. Like, I don't know, what is a grandmother supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Well, first time you have a grandchild, granddaughter, you don't know what to do with this grandchild. I've seen kids, but you deal with them. And then when they come to you and you're looking after them, you have to feed them, clothe them, and love them and respect them. You know, that's the way that I thought I could be with these kids that were born, like my daughter's babies, and then our other daughter, she died not too long ago. In November, we lost a daughter. My ex-partner and I, we're still good friends. We never be mean to each other. We're always respecting each other's space, time, and whatever. And her daughter came to visit us one evening, which was in June, I think June or end of May, somewhere around there, a few months ago. And we had the best time with her because we haven't seen her very much because she's always lived in this other reserve where it's far away in the reserve. It's called White Dog Reserve, and it's a hard place to be, that reserve. So we haven't spent that much time with our daughter there. She's not my daughter, but she was my ex-partner's daughter, and to me she's like a daughter. And when she came to visit us, it was really nice to spend time with her. We had a good time, and that was the last time we had a good time with her, laughing and remembering old memories. And my other daughter was there, and so it was really fun. And then she died in November. I got sick in November with pneumonia, and then she got sick with pneumonia and she died. So it's been a mess. So I didn't do anything in December. I didn't work. I refused to go to work because I needed time to heal myself because of this. One of our daughters is gone. Yeah, and I raised her, the one that's gone, I raised her daughter. She's the youngest of my grandchildren. And I helped raise her with my ex-partner, and she's a good girl. She's a good lady now. She's a girl. I mean, she's not a lady. She's got a little boy now. My oldest granddaughter has a daughter who I brought into the world. She's my great-granddaughter, and I delivered her myself. Hand the baby over to the family when she was born, and she's okay. She's 11 years old now. That's my first great-granddaughter. And I have a great-grandson. He's 5 years old. And my youngest granddaughter son is 7 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You have a big family.
That's not big, that's little. I wanted lots, but they don't have, that's all we're gonna have, I think. Yeah.
Well, you've been a mom to so many.
So, I have had so many kids. I have another daughter. She lives in Toronto, and I adopted her. She lives in Toronto, and we adopted two boys. So she's got two boys in Toronto and herself, and when I leave here, I'm gonna get to see my grandson.
Yeah. When you go back to Toronto.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, we'll end now and take a little break and then come back to other people's questions, but I wanted to end with this one story that you tell in your book. So you do a lot of work with youth. You know, for years you've been doing a lot of work with all kinds of youth, including, of course, queer youth.
Yeah.
And you talk about participating in a drag show at Thunder Bay Pride. And you write, 50 years after first fantasizing about dressing up as Elvis, I finally got to do it.
Yes, my first one was in Montreal. I was in a camp. And my first time I wore this white outfit, and I felt like I was Elvis. I felt like I was, not that I felt like I was Elvis, but I felt what Elvis must have felt like when he was going through doing his singing and music to people, and people honoring him for who he is.
Yeah.
Because I felt that first time when I did that, and I was wearing this white outfit from this one the guys gave me to use.
Yeah.
They dressed me up, and I looked almost like, I felt like I kind of looked like Elvis a little bit, fixed my hair, did all that. And then I wore sunglasses, and my daughter didn't recognize me. My youngest daughter was the one that came with me. We went together to that camp, and she came, and she didn't dress me up. She didn't know that was me coming out, and I was singing. She said, "Oh, is that you, Mom?" I hear that in the audience somewhere. I hear, "Oh my God, is that you, Mom?" That was my daughter, and I didn't answer her because I just pretended to sing, you know, lip singing for Elvis, and then feeling it and really happy with it. It was really great. That was my first job.
You right. They probably thought, talking about especially the young people, they probably thought that I was just a serious elder. But when I sang and pranced as Elvis, they laughed and clapped and started chanting my name. I was very happy to show them that being a spiritual person and an elder is not all about seriousness and loss.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Whew. Now I could put on my my hat.
So we'll take a break, but this is an opportunity for you to get together in little groups of about 3, 4, 5 people and decide what questions you might have that you would like to ask when we come back. So if you don't mind allowing us 10 minutes just to sit quietly and not engage with us, just so we can have a little bit of a rest and come back a bit more refreshed. So introduce yourself, if you haven't already, to people sitting around you, and we'll see you back in 10 minutes. So to everybody online, go get a cup of tea. And you were a very good hunter. You hunted so much, and you sold the pelts to the HBC store. They kept an account for you, and you were able to buy a house with your savings. That's what you said.
It wasn't a big house. It was $11 house.
Yeah, well, still.
Yeah, it was somebody else's house. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that.
You were a good hunter, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm a good hunter.
And you were a good provider.
Yeah.
Very good provider. Yeah, with that hatchet. That hatchet went far.
Yeah, it did.
How about you folks? You got a question?
I wanted to know how we could honor two-spirited people, and I'm sorry, I don't know your word for it, but I think that it's a gift to us, in the lesbians, the queer community, to know of a different way to see ourselves. It's so honorable, and it's so old. It's thousands and thousands of years old. And how can we honor that? What can we do to honor that?
Well, maybe to let people know that we have existed from before. And the way my grandmother tells a story to me is, she said she was 4 years old. And she's been passed, this information's been passed on for 7 generations from her time when she was 4 years old, that two-spirit people existed and lived amongst each other, and nobody was teased or nobody was being mean to, or nobody got, they were just like normal, and just like the regular people, not normal, I mean, we're not abnormal or anything, but it was just like living with other people, and no, it wasn't a bad thing to be that person. She thinks it came from Christianity, that it's against the rule to be two-spirit, or it's against the rule for man and woman, man and man to live together, and women to live together. It was against the law. That's what she said. That's what they were told when white people came, or whoever came, first people that came here. We were the first here, and then they arrived here and told us what we're supposed to live like. That we're supposed to wear clothes, not furs. But furs is what we had only. So then they got taught how to make clothes and stuff like that. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to honor two-spirit people, I guess the best way to do it is to share people about two-spirit people, about the two-spirit people itself. The word comes from not 2010 or 2009. When I first heard that myself, I thought, oh, that's what I've been looking for. Meanwhile, it was always there, but never ever thought about it. I knew it in my language, Nijo Jijak. That's what my grandmother told me, Nijo Jijak, Nijo Manitou. there's two ways of saying it. Nijamanitu is two great spirit people. That's two people living inside of you. That's what she was saying. Not that you're great spirit or anything like that. She meant it's a proper way. Oops, sorry. It's a proper way to say things to people that would other people would understand it better. Nijajijak. Nijajijak is a very powerful word that comes from way back in Anishinaabe people. They used to communicate with this Nijajijak. It's an animal that's got it's like a crane, the animal crane. Got long feet and everything. That is a very powerful bird in the Anishinaabe for them, the way they used to see it. And they come, but I guess another word also to say is there's another bird that comes, and it only comes every 10 years, and only certain people can see that. And it's that big, it's a big bird, but a thunderbird they call it in English. But I don't know how to say it in my language, thunderbird. So it's, my grandmother had a different name for it, and that's the thunderbird. And they come and visit us every 10 years or so for the people, where the Anishinaabe villages. That's what she would say, and they did exist. And I saw them only once in my lifetime. Mm. I saw that animal once in my lifetime. Mm. So, and when you were saying, how can you, what was your question?
To honor and recognize two-spirit people.
Well, I guess when you see two native people holding each other or whatever, that's how you would recognize them. But I mean, if you're in a community and there's a community going on with the two-spirit people, maybe best way is to go support them or invite them when there's things going on, or just send by. Easy to make something up like this. Two-spirit people are welcome. Like in Thunder Bay, they have a church fellowship. They're always sending two-spirit information to come, so people can come. The information goes to LGBTQ, and then the LGBTQ send it to two-spirit people. Mm. But the church themselves is inviting us too now, so in Thunder Bay it's first time somebody gets invited that way. But they say, you know, all welcome, two-spirit people welcome. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could do that. Yeah. Depends where you are.
Is there a sculpture? Is it part of the sculpture and recognition that the federal government is doing?
No.
Yeah, like two-spirit people are part of that monument.
Oh, the ball they're making, yeah. The thing they're making is for everybody.
Yeah.
They didn't specifically say this is for LGBTQ only.
Yeah, no, it includes specifically includes two-spirit, yeah. Okay, should we take some other questions?
Sure.
Yeah, great. How about you guys?
Well, the question, we got into a bit of a discussion about that you had arranged marriages, and wondering if prior to colonization, would there have been a tradition of arranged marriage with same-gender couples?
Yep.
Before it was, basically illegal because of the laws of the land.
Oh yeah, they were treated like the same as the other people. Mm. They got invited that way.
I just wanted to share, the first time I heard the expression two-spirited was actually in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah, in the 90s. I think it started in 80s.
Probably earlier.
Yeah. It's just that we didn't always have the proper meaning, proper words.
I think what I've read that happened is there was a conference, I think in like 1991 or 2, in Toronto, where people got together and agreed on this term, two-spirit, but recognized that so
It's
many
been
different
around.
nations have so many different terms.
Yeah.
But that for shorthand, just kind of like queer. A lot of us fit under queer, but we're a lot of different things, right? We're not all the same thing. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of, yeah. Yeah,
1985, Vancouver.
85, Vancouver.
We have,
Let me-
a large two-spirited community here, still, in Vancouver, and have had since the 80s, 1985. I was adopted by quite a few First Nations women friends who call themselves two-spirited. And, yeah.
So they were using that term in the 80s. Yeah.
And some have come and gone.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
another whole bunch of them coming out. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think it's been around for a while.
yeah. I'm surprised you haven't all seen them. Really.
We haven't all seen what?
These two-spirited women out there.
Oh, I don't.
They're here in the community.
Oh, sure. No, I think we were trying to figure out when did the.
No, it's just a question.
Oh, I see.
How to honor. Yeah. Just my question.
How
I
was?
meant to bring you, I was going to bring you something, but I got distracted by some other women in the community, like some sage I thought we might like to have. Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
All right. We have time for a few more, lots more questions actually. So, who would like to go next? I saw you all talking a lot, so I know you'll have a lot to say. Yeah.
We split up into two groups so we could have two questions.
Smart.
So my question was, or our group question was, what gave you courage to keep going through all those difficulties, especially when you were really young still, and to get sober at a relatively young age? Something inside of you kept you going?
Yeah.
In that direction?
When I was younger and I sobered up and realized that there was another world that was like me, finally, but after I got married, that's when I discovered, so I had to get unmarried. And I had to support my kids regardless. They were either going to come with me or they don't come with me, one or the other. And that's, but in my early sobriety and everything else, I really worked really hard to sober up and stay there and stay sober and be happy. And I was happy. I was happy with kids. Kids kept me busy. And then jobs kept me busy, and I've been busy. I'm a busy person. I'm a Beaver clan. I come from that clan. Very busy, and trying to help people and trying to be there for the people. Even now, today, I'm still busy traveling around, helping people. In Thunder Bay, I'm with a group of young people that are, we got quite a few of them. They used to go with, I don't know if you guys heard about it, but it's a group that went with, I forget, in Winnipeg. Winnipeg started a group called Bear Clan. And so they had one in Thunder Bay, and the young people were with them, but then we separated. The young people and I came together, and I'm their elder, and I work with them, all the young people, and we try to do only what we're supposed to do, and I always tell them we're only going to work with love, respect, and honor to bring that person, to help that person. That's what our job is for. We're not going to get involved in politics, because that's what's happened in Thunder Bay. It got big and it got really kind of messy, so but I'm with the young people, and they're easier to work with, and they're very smart. They got they're very like, I don't know how to describe that word I want to use. I want to use something where it defines them really beautiful people to work with, and they got a lot of love in themselves, and they really care for the people. And we go out of our way to go and help those other people that needs help. And so that's what we do, and we get together. And I go out with them on midnight trips myself with them once in a while. Not every weekend, but just once in a while I go out with them and go to these scary places and do scary things. And we don't do it on purpose, we're looking for people that needs help. That's what we do for the young people in Thunder Bay. And I like the way they work. They work together. We work together. We're not involved in politics too much. We try to stay away from it.
It sounds like you've got a lot of hope invested in those young people coming through.
I have a lot of hope for the young people. I have so much respect for young people. Me as an elder, that's who I want to be with, is the young people, because they have things they want to say, and they have things they want to do, and they can be really good leaders for the future if people would just listen to them once in a while and not think of them as, they're young, they don't know what they're doing. Maybe we're the old ones who doesn't know what we're doing. That's what I always say. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I need to invest in some of the young people. Maybe not every one of them is the smartest, but they know what they want, and I think I know what they want and need, and I understand them because I want them to have what I had after all this other stuff went, after the abuse and after all the other stuff, and I smartened up and I sobered up. I lived a better life. I know they can have that too. You can have it if you want it. That's what I see in them. And they give me hope because they're also protecting the environment. I see some of these young people, they're into environment. They're gardeners, and they look after the land, the environment, they look after things. If you just give them a chance, they will show you and they will lead you to a good place. That's my hope for the future for them.
Can I ask a follow-up? Do you have like a vision for that future?
No, I don't. They do.
They do. Makes sense.
I will live in it if they do.
Yes.
Yeah. So, next.
Is there any dreams left that you haven't accomplished? What would you dream for yourself next?
Oh, I want to be able to travel, to go somewhere where I can enjoy myself and just be that person. Like, I know you need some money to get to the other places, but I really would like to go somewhere and just travel for a bit and see things I haven't seen. Especially in a warm place. I would really like to be in a warm place so I don't have to go through cramps every night.
I have a difficult question, just as a warning for people. I was not aware that some children were actually missed in the various government groups that fed the residential schools. Do you have any sense of what numbers might have been? And I do agree that your being left behind was not lucky. You had to live with the wreckage that event caused.
Can you kind of say it in a way that I could totally understand?
The specific question she had is, do you have any sense of how many children had the same experience of you where they were not sent to residential school?
Oh, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know, maybe thousands.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's lots of us. In my little community where I came from, that little map of that Umbabaka, there's a lot of them, but a lot of them will not agree because they're not out there dealing with their stuff. They're still doing what they need to do. They think what is best for themselves. And some of them died because of that. Some of them are dead. Most of my cousins are dead because of that, because some of them came to Vancouver too, and they died in Vancouver.
Right.
And so there is a lot of us that was like me, that not two-spirit, they weren't two-spirit, but they're just people that grew up in that kind of environment where they went through what I went through. But a lot of them went to residential school. And that is why I said, well, if they all went to residential school, I know they got treated bad over there. Well, I had my own residential school in Umbabaka. I almost feel like I could say my town was like a residential school because that's the way they treated me after. I got raped. I got used up by old people. And I was a babysitter, and I was, you know, just everything to them. So, and sometimes, and I got picked on a lot. I got, you know, many things happened. I got hung upside down and half naked, you know. So it was really not that easy. If I wanted, I mean, that would have been a good excuse for me to say, well, that's the reason why I became an alcoholic, but that wasn't the reason why. It was just, I needed to numb my body for a while.
Yeah.
Needed to find a way out, but when I found a way out, and that is the reason why I wrote the book, was I wanted people like me, older people or younger people, to start writing their own little history about how we going to stop this violence against women or violence against kids if we don't talk about it. We're never going to be able to deal with those kind of things, because I think, like I always tell people when I work with them, I say, okay, you got this house here. You got 4 corners in your house. You got a bathroom, a living room, a bedroom, and a kitchen. And that's where abuse begins. It doesn't always begin at school or at somewhere else. You have to look at your life and say, are you man enough or are you woman enough to say that, hey, I admit something went happen in my home. My dad did this to me, or my grandfather did this to me, or my grandmother, or somebody. Somebody, my cousin, did to me. And once you look at the relationship between you and this other person that happened, you have to see that it was wrong, because that person had more power than you did when you're little, when things bothers you, and then you grow up and you deal with that and you don't know how to talk about it. So I can understand why people don't talk about it too, is because there's not enough counseling or social work available for people to spend. You need a treatment center in a way to go and deal with your personal shit in here, in a safe place, in a safe environment. Then you can let it go and talk about it and just let it be. That's what I did. I talked about my sexual abuse. I talked about everything that happened. I talked about the things that I witnessed, everything that happened when I was little. And then I was there for 6 weeks. I had treatment. Then I used my art as an artist. I became an artist because of that. I started drawing and sketching my personal shit that happened to me in drawings. And then I wrote a book. And then, you know, my art is at that gallery right now. Most of them are hanging up, and then there's some that I'm leaving behind. So I'm leaving all my babies behind. And I said, oh, they better be taken care of. But there's a book too that's there. It's a you flip pages. And I'm going to continue a two-spirit journey. I'm looking for somebody to help me write my book, my next page, my next book. So I will be doing that in the next few months, looking for some friends. I think I have somebody in mind already, but I got to make sure that person's going to be available. So that's what the second journey is going to be about a little bit. Or, I don't know. I still got lots to say about Umbabaka.
So when they make a movie out of your book, who's going to play you?
Me. Who else? I play a lot of characters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I can play lots of characters. I was asking the CNIB. I'm a visually impaired person, so you guys are all sitting there smiling, and you guys think I could see you guys really well. You know, it looks that way, but I don't see all your eyes and your nose, like your features. Some of you people, I could see Shane. I could see her really good. I could see you really good, but as it gets further, I can't see. I'm visually impaired.
Yeah.
And
smiling.
well, that's good. And so,
Did you, I'm so glad you told your story, and I share that with you, the importance of telling a story. You were part of the one question I didn't get to asking you is you played a really important role in the murdered and missing Indigenous girls and women inquiry, which is all about telling story. And I encourage everybody to read the report. It's a lot of pages, but it doesn't take a long time to read, and they've asked us to read it. So I encourage everybody to read it. But what's really amazing about it, from my perspective, as someone being a Canadian historian, I have to read lots of reports, is they don't just center women's voices and women's stories and women's experience. It's their theory, it's their method, it's everything. There aren't women. Everyday women are the experts. It's not a report that's like the usual experts saying, police statistics and government business and, sociologists commenting. It's all about the story of the survivors. So it's really extraordinary. Like, it really, truly is an extraordinary document. And it must have been such an extraordinary experience and powerful and healing to be part of that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what it meant to you, and did you witness the power of telling story there for other people?
yes.
Yeah.
It was very, very, it was very powerful, like you said. But listening to people's stories and telling their stories one-on-one, and you try to help them in a way that you can. I was there as an elder and making sure that this person's not gonna fall apart, and then taking, just taking this person, or he or she taking this person to a little space where they can let it all go and smudge them and be that part. But sometimes people did fall apart right in front of the big picture.
Yeah.
And some of that, to me, I think the way they did it, me as an activist, because I am, and I felt like the way they did it in live stream, so the whole bunch of people could see that, it was okay when they did that, but I think they did that. I think they should have asked the families to make sure that they've already worked on some of their stuff. I don't think it's fair to ask someone to tell their story live in front of everybody, the whole world, to see what happened to you and what they did to you, and then to talk about it when you have not worked on it. some people can fall apart, and then some people it can really hurt them. Maybe not that moment, but later. And it hurts them later, and then they don't have no counseling. They don't have no, I mean, the counselors was there available, yes, but are they going to be available for them later when things happen? That's why I was when I worked on my stuff, I went and dealt with everything, and then I went home and I started working with it in drawing or doing something. You got to find something to let it go. Whether you find another person to help you, or whether you go and paint or garden, do gardening, you put all your stuff there, you let it go there, or wherever you got it. Whatever your favorite thing you need to do is, that's where you let it go.
Yeah.
Because you keep it here and it's always raw here. And it hurts you when somebody says something, oh, and then you jump. You think it's you they're picking on, but you're not. Sometimes it gets misunderstood. I don't know. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Good. Yeah, that was a hard one, being with people, dealing with their personal stuff that happened to them. But the missing, murdered women and kids, and missing, murdered men that went missing. I remember when they were going to start doing that, vamps coming out, when they were putting the vamps out. The first time they said they were putting the vamps out, that's the one we're talking about, missing, murdered women. Okay, I went to that meeting when they were organizing it in Thunder Bay. The last meeting they were having, I said, I'm coming here today. I'm coming tomorrow as an elder, as a two-spirit person, and I'm going to wear my pants and I'm going to wear my regalia shirt, I said. And that is how I'm going to dress. It's not going to stop me from coming. I'm telling you guys that. I told everybody. And then everybody said, oh, okay, elder. Because while they were working, preparing, they were telling all the girls, the lesbian workers, they were telling them to wear skirts. They had to wear skirts when they were touching the medicines and when they were doing all that stuff. So I told them, well, when we were working with stuff, and I think some of the girls or some of the people that worked didn't tell them that they were two-spirit, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's where it got misunderstood. But they were, as long as you're a female, you're coming there, you're helping, you had to wear a skirt. So I just wanted to say that, because not everybody is comfortable in skirts. Yeah. So that's one of the things that when people say they're going to do this, well, you can't make people dress the way they want to dress.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Did you want to do something with the tobacco?
Oh, well, when we're done, I have this tobacco. I was going to ask everybody before they leave, they can take a handful. And then when you go out, on your way out the door, before, not in the door, but somewhere on the ground, you can let it go slowly. Take a little pinch and say, miigwech to your great spirit that's out there. I know it's giving you rain right now, but be thankful that you have something we have something to look forward to. It's about letting go, so whatever you hear here should stay here in this area, and let it go when you leave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's what the tobacco is.
Okay.
If you're uncomfortable to do it outside, to let it go, then just put it in, I don't know, and we might need another bowl then. They might.
Well, okay, I can sort that out. So just a question, and we have one last question, which we'll get to, but I have these things I need people to fill out. So can we leave this by the door for people, or is it best to pass the bowl around? Is there a better way to do it?
No, they can
We can leave it by the door?
by the door, and they can take a little pinch and say, because then you're closing it with.
Okay, great. So we have one last question, and then after
Okay.
this question, we'll say thank you. But I just want to let everybody know, so those of you who've been here before have heard the spiel. So this event is funded by a SHIRK grant, which I have. Thank you, SHIRK. But it means I do have to do something. This isn't enough, apparently. So this is why you have this piece of paper in your hand. So please, out of kindness to me and the federal government that gives me money to do these things, if you could fill it out, and then I will use it to publish, the results of these events. And just leave them on the table. And also, just as Ma-Nee has brought tobacco for us, I also think it's important that we nourish ourselves. And hopefully you found this event today nourishing. But it's also important that we nourish our bodies. So there's apples and oranges. And that's my gift to you. So I would really like for everybody to take one when you leave, and that's for you to nourish your bodies with. And I'm eating one of the oranges now, and it's not bad, I have to say. Sometimes they're sour and they're not good. That one's pretty good. So please take one on your way out. So we'll have one last question, and then I just don't feel it's appropriate right now. Okay. So one last question.
I was wondering if the Where books were available, or
Yes.
Oh yes.
You can buy them online. Apparently, Massey Books has some. I did try to bring them, but it was impossible. And there's some at the Art Speak. So just to remind everybody, the gallery, Art Speak, 233 Cordova, apparently they do have some books there.
No, Carol
Carol,
Street.
sorry, Carol.
Carol Street, go and
This library
buy
has
some
a
books
copy
there.
as well. So yeah.
And I'll be here till Monday night to sign. Well, not here, but
You're coming to SFU with me tomorrow.
no, if you want to
find my classroom.
I'll probably be at the gallery on Monday. I don't think no. What time is your class?
It's in the afternoon.
In the afternoon? I'll be there in the morning if somebody wants me to sign, and then I might be there in the evening
Thank you.
for
Okay.
an hour in the evening after the speak. I could go to the gallery and stay there for an hour, and I can sign the book if you want me to sign the book.
Yeah, I really recommend. Really recommend it to everybody. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us. Thank you so much.
Midwife. Thank you.
So I will leave this at the door. So do please take some with you as you leave, along with your fruit. And just leave your surveys here, and feel free to take this information. The surveys are here. Yeah. Thank you,
Did
everybody.
anybody try phoning? I said, did anybody?